Hey, everybody. It's Marty Bahama. Hope you guys are having a great day. I wanted to kind of tell you a little bit of the story behind Marty Bahama here, Marty Human, and how I went from being a realtor in the mid 90s to not discovering the mortgage business into 2004, and the difference between how I failed as a realtor and how I didn't as a loan officer and a branch manager. So I'm going to start off by saying that it was probably the mid 90s. A buddy of mine got me to go work for Bluegreen Corporation. And it was a land development company. I didn't do the timeshares, but we did the lakefront property and the golf course sales. So I would actually, before I got my affiliate broker's license, they'd actually send me out to these different trade shows. I'd go to a boat show, a golf show, any kind of RV shows. We'd go to these trade shows, and I'd take a booth and I'd set it up, and that was my job, is to basically stand there and get people to sign this little form trying to win a free vacation, and then we would come back to Tennessee and we would just start cold calling. So we would go to these trade shows like the Novi show, the boat show up there. It was a monster. The golf show, yeah, it was a monster show. And I was helping selling property on the Blue Green Corporation. I mean, with at Blue Green Corporation, but it was on a Wood Lake Golf Course up in Tazewell. And it was before the golf course had even started getting built. It was just a mountain, a big muddy mountain. It was hard to sell property on a muddy mountain, with trying to tell everybody, hey, one of these days there's going to be a beautiful golf course here, which they are now. There's a beautiful golf course there, some beautiful houses. One of my favorite golf courses to play, which I'm not even good, but still love to play it. And the when I was up in Tazewell and I lived in Kingston, so it was about an hour and a half drive, and I was going about 6 days a week. It's a lot of gas, commission only. Got to sell some property, otherwise I'm not going to be able to eat. And at that time, we were getting 10%. So if we sold a $50,000 piece of property, you'd make 5,000 off of it. I sold a few pieces of property, but not many. Barely survived if I didn't. And so I come back home and tried to go work for Coldwell Banker as just a normal real estate agent. And I was lost. I felt like everybody was a little too busy to actually sit down and train the basics, because you go take that test and you get your license, doesn't mean you really know how this whole operation works. I didn't learn about how to really roll the closing costs really well until I become a loan officer, because didn't do a ton of transactions. It tried to sell a piece of property, tried to show a few houses, tried to list a few houses, but didn't do well in that side of the business. So I got out of the business, failed. I was one of the realtors that didn't make it in the first 2 years. And then I went to work in a couple different avenues as far as sales goes, even tried copiers and fax machines, and then made a living off eBay for a while, selling baseball cards and autograph stuff, that kind of good stuff. And then a friend of mine reached out to me in 2004 and said, Marty, you need to check out the mortgage business. I don't know if I want to get back into that area again. Growing up, actually, it's kind of crazy to think about it, but even when I was in high school, and guys, I didn't graduate college. I don't have a college degree. I do have a high school diploma, but I don't have a college degree. But I remember being in high school telling mom and dad I wanted to be in real estate. I wanted to get in real estate. And so a friend of mine, Joe, said, Marty, you gotta check this out. I'm making a lot of money in the mortgage business. And it took him about 3 months to finally show up on my doorstep and say, look at this paycheck stub. A lot of money to be made right now. So I go get in the business, and it was like around August, 1st of August in 2004, like August the 7th, I think, or 6th, something like that. Me and a buddy of mine, Brandon Taylor, actually started in the business at the same time, and he stuck with it. I got out between 2008 and 2012, and he stuck with it and still made great money in all those years. He said he just had to work harder. Just had to work harder. Well, what I'm going to teach you guys is how to work smarter. And that's what Kamikaze Christie taught me, is how to work smarter now with these Facebook groups and with messenger groups. But when I got into the business of being a loan officer, getting back to that, I broke the branch office record for the first full month in the business with 14 loans, and I maintained double digit loans every month. So did Brandon. Both of us hit double digit loans about every single month in the business. Tony Wood, Matt Swearingen, he was better than all of us. He was better than all three, me, Brandon, and Tony. And big numbers back in those days. But then there was a lot of people that, and I tell everybody, they say, well, back in the older days, subprime days, you could close, blah, blah, blah. There were still only about three or four people in the branch. Lori Bass was another great loan officer, still is. Three or four people, five people in the branch that was really hitting some big numbers. Then you had some middle of the road people and you had some bottom feeders. Well, after about 10 months, I got promoted to being a branch manager, and they moved me from Knoxville down to Memphis. And I was taking over a branch that was already successful. I didn't really have to do anything to the branch except maintain it, hire a few new loan officers because the guy that had the job had got promoted and he took some of his better loan officers with him. But it didn't take long, and they were maintaining about 70 to 80 loans every month, pretty easy. And we were just covering from Jackson, Tennessee to the Arkansas line and hitting 70 to 80 loans a month. And one month we hit 111 loans for like, I think it was 12 million in volume, something crazy ridiculous. But we had about 15 loan officers, and for the branch managers out there, that's what it takes, and for the brokers, that's what it takes. It takes having a good team of people around you to hit those serious numbers. If you're trying to run a business, you can do it with two or three people, especially two or three people, four people that are usually hitting the same numbers every month. Nothing wrong with that, but they're probably not ever going to go to a different level. It takes finding superstars out there that are willing to come in, give it their all, and hit those double digit numbers. But the reason I put this live on is just kind of more to tell you sometimes maybe, and I have seen it at the opposite direction. A friend of mine in the business, he was an okay loan officer, but he got his real estate license and now he runs his own his own brokerage, and he's got quite a few agents underneath him. He was a much better realtor, and he tried to do both. He tried to be a realtor and loan officer at the same time, and he's a firm believer that if you try to do both, if you put your heart in both of them, you're not going to make it. Now, do I agree with that? I think he's probably pretty right. He tried it. I've never tried to do both at the same time, so I don't know. I usually tell everybody you need to stay in your lane. If you're a loan officer, be a loan officer. Don't be a processor. Don't be an appraiser. Don't be a realtor. If you're a realtor, don't be a loan officer. Don't be an appraiser. I tell everybody to kind of stay in your lane because it'll run a lot smoother, and keep the communication through the messenger in messenger groups, and stay on top of the communication. That is key in this business, is to let people know what is going on. But I was a much better loan officer than I was a realtor. Now, realtors, people say, what do you really consider the difference of the two? Well, as a realtor, you're going to cover a certain area. You're not really. I have some realtors tell me they drive from. I'll cover one end of Tennessee to the other, Marty. No, you won't. You're not going to drive from Johnson City to Memphis to list $100,000 house or to sell $100,000 house or vice versa. It's not going to happen. You're going to cover a certain area, probably about an hour and a half driving range all around you, depending on how big that loan size is, how big that sale is or listing or whatever. But as a loan officer, you're covering states. I cover Tennessee and Kentucky. Our branch covers Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina, Florida, and Texas. That's the branches that Dave and I have that we kind of cover as far as the areas goes or the states goes. So you've got a lot bigger territory, and a lot of stuff can happen from the house or from your office. It doesn't necessarily involve having to take clients out to show them houses, take clients out to just to go from this house to this house to this house to using all your gas. So I will say, as a realtor, my weekends were really dominated in that industry. I didn't have time for football, didn't have time for family. And back in those days, I was a huge Tennessee. I'm a huge Vols fan still, but I was a really big, way bigger Vols fan. I was actually willing to go out and fight the traffic to go to the games. These days, you get older, you get a little lazier. But with that being said, I was a much better loan officer. I don't know why. It was something about being on the phone, being able to not. Maybe I felt intimidated. I'll be honest with you. I didn't feel comfortable walking in there and seeing all these people, and I was in Kingston, and in those days, that was in the mid-90s. It was predominantly women realtors, and not, which it still kind of is, but it was a lot more back then. It was only like maybe two male agents, and I was one of them, and I was brand new. And I'm telling you, it's a different world because going from passing that test, and especially going from selling property to trying to list houses and sell houses, and back in those days, they were teaching us to do the same things they're teaching you guys to do today. Get out there and door knock. hand your business card out. Ooh, boy. Have open houses. And don't get me wrong. Do I think open houses are okay sometimes? No, I don't. And I tell you why. Because, okay, maybe sometimes. But for the most part, you put yourself under a microscope. You're not putting anybody else but yourself under a microscope to have to perform, to have to be able to have people to come by. If you don't get people to come by, you're gonna be like, "Well, I tried to advertise, I tried to get it out there." The seller's gonna be like, "Well, I tell you what, maybe I should have used a different realtor." I mean, it's just the way it is. Now with the Facebook groups, even as an open house, I'd still do open houses sometimes because I know with the power of the Facebook groups, I could bring in so many people at open house. I'd want to show everybody there and that seller that I'm the best. That you ain't gonna find somebody that can get so many clients to this house. That's all there is to it. And I'm telling you, I was a not a good realtor. I didn't know the basics. I didn't feel like I got taught the basics, but I can always blame anybody. We can always blame the world. It's your fault, your fault, your fault. But in reality, I had nobody to blame but this guy right here. If I fell today, I had nobody to blame but this guy. And you guys got to remember, it's a commission only job. You got to have that desire to be like, okay, today is a commodity. I'm not going to get it back. I am going to pick up a deal today, a possible deal today. So that way, a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road, I'm going to get paid. And I'm going to look at this business as longevity. I'm going to look at this business as not an immediate gratification. I'm not going to get mad if somebody's got low credit. Oh my gosh, you're wasting my time. You got low credit. No, it's a human being. It's a person who has a desire to want to buy a house. And I'm going to get that person inside a house. It may take 6 months, it may take 3 months, it may take a month, it may take a year. But I want that person to know who I am and I want to help that person get into a house. So just maybe if you're not making it as a realtor, before you start going down that path of totally getting out of the business, because remember, I was a realtor in the mid 90s. I didn't get back into the real estate business, mortgage business until 2004. So maybe you don't have to get out of the business for a while. If you're a realtor and you're not making it or you're not really succeeding, let's have a one-on-one conversation. Let's talk about it. Maybe you'd be a better loan officer. Maybe being a realtor is not for you. If you're a loan officer and you're not making it, maybe you'd be a better realtor. Maybe being a loan officer is not for you. Maybe being a realtor or loan officer is not for any of you. You never know, or maybe it's for all of you. Because, and don't get me wrong, do I say don't be a realtor, don't be a loan officer? Definitely not. As far as like both of them together, I highly encourage you to be both. I just don't highly encourage you to focus tremendously all your efforts on both. I would say more of if I was really, I would do what you're good at. Do what you're good at. Like me, if I still went and got back and got my realtor license, I would use it only for referrals. I'd be knocking out referrals like I'd be trying to get that 25% every second. No question. No question. So think about that. Think about the ability to build. And as a realtor, get your loan officer license every once in a while. I mean, it's you'll have connections. Those connections are going to be key for you guys. And using these groups, another big key. All right. Marty Bahama's out. I hope this helps you guys. And we'll be live again soon. See you. See you. See you.